Welcome back to the Puck Bunker. I'm Rocco Zappia, joined as always by my co-host, the man who trained Jason Statham in both acting and martial arts, Darren Boyce. How you doing today, Boyce?
I'm doing well, Rocco. How you doing?
Good. I'm excited to be joined today by the great Ross Levitan from Locked On Sens podcast, probably the most popular Sens podcast out there, really. The one we listen to anyways. Thanks for joining us, Ross. It's awesome to have you on.
Hey, buttering me right up. Thanks for having me, boys. It's great to be on the Puck Bunker. And what a week. You guys must be fired up, eh? You work all year long. You get to draft week and the transactions and your rankings compared to where things go. It's got to be an exciting time for you, hey?
I'm exhausted from both a lack of sleep and from arguing with Darren Boyce about teenagers.
Hell yeah.
He's a tiring man to disagree with. I will give him that. And he's beating me into submission over and over as we get ready to release our list.
Listen, I just have good, solid facts to go on here. So that's all. The rankings will be out this week, though, just so everyone knows. So
the rankings will be out this week. But today, the focus of our show is going to be all things Ottawa Senators, which I'm very excited to do. So, Ross, let's give me your thoughts on what you think Ottawa might do at 21, what their needs are, overview of what you kind of think they have in their prospect pool, what we might be missing, best case scenario, worst case scenario. Let's dive right into it there.
Man, we're going to do a full show this week on Locked On Sens about best and worst case scenario. But off the top of my head, I mean, without kind of going through the let's say the rumor mill right now, just looking at the Senators depth chart, most notably their lack of prospects, I would say drafting a forward would be my number one choice to do at 21st overall. Now, if there's a right shot defenseman, certainly fill your boots if you like them. I'm not going to complain about that. The only thing that would really give me pause, and I have learned over the 6 years of doing this, that having a hot negative take on draft day can only bite you in the ass. Nobody ever goes, hey, I knew I was wrong about that, or I knew I was right about that guy being a bad player. But damn, you're going to hear it if you say a player is bad and then he ends up being a good National Hockey League player or even has a great draft plus one season. But with the Senators prospect pool the way it is, having the first round pick used on Carter Yakimchuk last year, right shot defenseman, I appreciate the position of need. It did suck watching Sam Dickinson in London, lefty, have the season he did. Same with Zane Parekh, righty, getting his first NHL game. But the way that it's set up right now, you can talk about how high or low you are on the prospects in the Senator system, but you can't deny the fact that they basically have 3 teams worth of left shot defensive prospects under the age of 22. Tomas Hamara, Jorian Donovan, Gabriel Eliasson, Theo Wahlberg, Philip Nordberg, Eric Wallenius. Like, it's getting a bit ridiculous right now. How many of those guys as well are second, third round picks? Like, you're using decent draft capital to get them. So I would like to stay away from a left shot defenseman at 21st overall. That said, anywhere else they decide to go, I think it's important they get a first round pick if they want to trade back a few spots because they don't have a second or an early third this year. Their first third round pick's Florida, so dead last in that round. So if they want to add draft capital, I'm all for it, but they have to have a first round pick. They're lacking talent in their prospect pool. So that's, to me, the number one thing. They're going to have opportunities, I think, to make the NHL team better, but the prospect pool, it's thin pickings when it comes to the forwards.
No, and that's for sure. Oh, go ahead, Boyce.
Yeah, I was just stating with maybe the targets we've seen around 21. Are there any guys that you're specifically forwards that you're really interested in the Sens kind of taking around that spot?
Yeah, Darren, the only problem with that is the last number of years, all the prospects that I like the most pre-draft end up being Montreal Canadiens. And then when you look at the Habs having 2 picks right in front of Ottawa, like 4 or 5 picks ahead of them, that really gives me pause to give you names because I just know that the first 2 that I say I love are going to be Habs. Like, I'm not even just talking the top guys. Like, I like Slavkovsky in his draft year. I loved Lane Hudson in his draft year. And I even loved Jacob Fowler, who looks like an unbelievable goalie prospect now. They got a bit later on in the draft. He was my number 1 goalie on the list, and then bang, he goes to Habs. So with that caveat, so Habs fans, listen up. You're going to get one of these guys in the draft at 16 and 17, right? 15, 16, 16, 17?
16, 17, yeah.
Yeah, there you go for the Habs there. For Ottawa, are you talking about what I think could be realistic or what I would like? Because we know how the Sens draft. They want athletes, they want length, and they want raw skill that they believe that their compete level and internal drive can push them to be great players.
I think realistic options that,
Okay.
you would like that, that kind of fit the team model, especially with, Steve Staios being there now.
Yeah, like a name, and I don't believe he's going to be there, but I think the player that the Senators would covet the most would be Carter Bear, the way that he plays the game. I think he's well off the board by 21, but that's their style preference. Now, this one kind of goes against it because he doesn't play physical at all, but Lyndon Lakovic is a name that I've heard the Senators throughout the season were really paying close attention to. Really hard to judge a guy, too, when he's playing on the worst team in the dub, and it's like, okay, we get that you're not physical at all, but how much of that is you looking up at the scoreboard and it's 5-0 for the other team in the second period, and you're, I'm not going to run them through the wall. Now, maybe that's a bit of a characteristic flaw, too. So you have to weigh that a little bit differently. I like Lakovic. I don't love him necessarily, but I want to get those names out of the way because those are names that I don't believe will be there. Now, in terms of realistic options, and it seems like there's a lot of centers in this year's draft that at least I'm really interested in. The two names that I'll give you that I think there's a reasonable chance that they're there, I'll give you three names that are there, and who I would love to see the Senators pick in no order. Maybe I'll throw them out there and you guys can power rank these three players. But it's Cole Reshny of the Victoria Royals going to North Dakota. Obviously, I got a bit of an affinity with the North Dakota Fighting Hawks, but I also love the player. Super high-end skill. Braden Coots is another name. Really like him. And then we're going with Carter Yakimchuk's teammate in Calgary, Ben Kindle. Those are three names that I think if you're going for a forward and you're looking to up the skill level of your prospect pool, I like those three. So let me throw that at you then. How do you guys rank those three players? Coots, Reshny, and Kindle.
You want to take that, Rocco?
Yeah. I'm going to say the first two guys I would be absolutely thrilled with if they end up with Cole Reshny. My goodness, and I am the first guy to hammer small players, and I can't find a way to hammer this kid. I understand the skating is not really elite, but the brain is, and the desire is there. We did a segment that might be coming out either before or after this episode. I'm not sure, but it's a Detroit Red Wings preview. And the guy that we were chatting with said he reminded him a lot of Braden Point in his drafter, where he didn't necessarily have the most elite feet and he was small centerman, but damn, just smarter than everybody out there. And I see, I have a lot of time for that comparable. Cole Reshny is a guy. Hockey Sense is a great equalizer, and he's got top 3 hockey sense in this whole draft as far as I'm concerned. I thought he was, Brady Martin's getting all the love for the Hlinka, but who's putting all those pucks on his stick in positions to score and drawing guys into him and opening up ice? And Martin did it with his physicality, but I mean, Reshny put him in great spots, is my point. Now, Coots captained that team. Fantastic leader. He's everything. He plays hockey.
He's Ridley Gray.
Yeah. He plays the exact way I love a guy to play. He's hard-nosed. He's two-way. He's tenacious. He doesn't give up. He'll battle through anything. He doesn't care if you're bigger than him. He's willing to block shots, eat pucks, penalty kill, whatever he needs to do to win. He's happy to do it. And that's another guy that I think would fit great with what Ottawa is trying to build. Not the biggest, but you're okay with it because of the way he plays. Now, I don't know if Kindle is going to be in my top 21 when it's all said and done. I really like the player. Now, he would be a guy that I'd be targeting in a trade down scenario for sure. If you can pick up a late first and a mid second or something, he's maybe the guy you take with that late first, and you're really happy with that because I think he's going to fit into the lineup. Two other guys that might be Zahn and Nestrasil and Mason West, I think could really fit the profile of what Ottawa's trying to do. Bigger guys with some tenacity and some hard nose to them, but still with some skill. But geez, Reshny would be a dream as far as I'm concerned. I'd be thrilled with Coots as well. Boyce, what do you think?
If I can add some with Reshny, like if they threw him in the Sens lineup right now, I'm not sure he doesn't play on the half boards on their power play. I'm really not sure he doesn't.
He's the way man.
the way he sees the ice is incredible. I think it's actually his in-zone playmaking, I think, is actually better than anyone else in this draft. I think we said that in December, actually. Maybe Misa, but again, I don't think Misa's more off the rush than he is. So it's
well, it'd be him or O'Brien, but
yeah,
Rushing's as good as either.
And again, both of those guys are top 10
pick.
picks, obviously. Yeah. So I think there's some value there. I worry though that Reshny might be gone. I think Vancouver might be. I think that seems like a pretty obvious fit for them.
Yeah,
I think they're looking for a centerman as well. But that I just wonder if we would be, if Staios would be okay taking the 5'10" and a half centerman. Like I wonder that. I think he can play though. I think he can stick. I think he plays defensively well. He's good on draws. Like he does everything fairly well. He's got that perception of the small guy that it's fine. I like Coots there as well. I like the way he plays. Greasy game, kind of fits the Sens model. I think they actually would target him. I think he's realistic at 21 as well.
Yeah.
The guys Rocco mentioned, I'll just go after one. Like Nestrasil does seem like an obvious fit for them. 6'4", just running around the ice all the time, hitting guys, blocking shots with his face, has some offensive skill. Like this guy is a wild hockey player. They seem to have some confidence drafting out of the USHL and that area, especially last year. It looks like they actually hit on a guy there too, with Blake Montgomery. So, I mean, there might be he realistically could be an option for them at 21. The other guy I'm going to mention that Rocco maybe not like is Malcolm Spence, I think is an option for them here. Just because they need the safety of that pick. And I think he's a safe option there in terms of, he's going to play. You probably know what you're going to get out of him, and might not be a superstar talent, but I think it's a guy that can kind of play on your third line. He's big, he's fast, can play in every situation. Kind of, we have our stars, right? We have our star players. So we're just kind of looking to augment them. Whereas like maybe a guy like Reshny is more of a home run swing, but I would still take Reshny over him, but yeah. So I don't know. The other two options I want to mention too, in the Locked On Sens mock, I took Blake Fiddler, the right-hand D. Do you think if a right-hand D is available at 21 and say Coots is there as well, do you think they would go with the right-hand D, or do you think they would go with the centerman like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I personally probably lean with the centerman. I think to me as well, if you're going to draft a forward, it should be a centerman. I think that just with how light they are up front, you'd rather have a guy where even if it doesn't stick at center, you could still potentially get a winger out of him rather than a guy where you're kind of pigeonholing him already and saying, hey, if you don't cut it here as a winger, and how many spots are we realistically going to have with the ages of our wingers who are already in the National Hockey League and trying to get better? I just don't know if it's a schematic organizational fit. That said, a right shot defenseman would be super, because eventually you're going to have to fill in 2 spots on that side. That, and even 3. I mean, Zub's not getting any younger. He's still in his prime of his career. But if you're looking at kind of where are we going to need the most help 2, 3, 4 years down the road, yeah, right shot defenseman's high up there. You're banking a lot right now on Carter Yakimchuk to be a guaranteed top 4 defenseman and one that can help you in all situations. So, yeah, I think center and right shot defenseman would be my 2 calling cards. And we know Blake Fiddler fits the bill of what the Senators love in the bloodlines. I don't know if they've done it as recently, or they haven't done it as much recently, but for a while there, if you were the son of a former NHLer, you basically had a 5-year contract with the Senators. But no, if you're looking at kind of the height fits, the late birthday fits, and the raw excitement, right? Like you see flashes with Blake Fiddler, but is the offense going to pop at the next level too? And that's kind of, even next year going back, hopefully we see him really produce more than like 33 points. That's fine, double digits in goals. But if he's going to be that plus offensive player, we know that he's got the defensive skill and can shut down opponents and play on the PK. But I think if you're drafting a guy at 21, you probably want him to have more of an all-around game. And that's going to be the question if that's translatable to the next level. So I would be very happy with that pick. There's a long list. I've set the bar pretty low from what I hope happens pre-draft to what they actually do. I've been right before, I've been wrong before, but I know that the Senators have a tight, probably more consistently than a lot of other teams in the league. Like they're not trying to diversify as much. you need to be an athlete, compete hard. The skill and what your production, I would say, is very secondary to what the Sens look for on draft night.
I'm just going to follow up here, Rocco. Just one question. Can we confirm the Sens are not taking a goalie at 21?
No, we can't confirm anything, but I think it'd be wild if they do. The Senators for a long time took a goalie every draft, and I don't mind that thought process, but that's like a second, third, fourth round thing. Like they've got their own fourth. They've got Florida's third. Maybe that's when you look to take a goalie.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think goalies are pressing need, especially, I think they're still hoping and praying that they get that first round pick back next year, but it doesn't look like they've got Ice Cube's chance in hell of that. So given that, I don't think goalies it shouldn't even be a consideration at 21. You need to get a guy that, like Darren said, it doesn't need to be a star, but you can't miss on the pick because Pierre Dorion can't figure out how to read a no trade clause apparently. How were your thoughts on the Sens this year? Let's talk about their NHL team for a minute. Obviously had don't like losing to the Leafs in the playoffs, but that is the more experienced team and that should have been the result probably. I thought they played great, but how do you think their season went overall? And what do you think is the top priority here in the offseason to try to take that next step where you're not just happy to be there?
Yeah, that's just it. It's about the mindset of getting to be a team that's not only there every year, but makes noise in the playoffs. And just a quick correction too. I think I mentioned just in passing there that Ottawa had their own fourth round pick. It's actually San Jose. So those two picks are going to be really close together. Florida's at the end of the third round, then turning right around to the start of the fourth round. Ottawa's fourth round pick is Edmonton's from the Roby Yarventi trade, or I should say the Xavier Borgo trade to Ottawa last year. So just a quick correction there. But to get back to the NHL team, I just think, look, a lot of people are saying, oh, Ottawa needs this, they need that to get to the next level. I think internally you're probably looking around at the age and the experience of the players they already have and saying, well, if Tim Stützle decides that he wants to shoot the puck 4 times a night, how many more goals is that alone going to give us? Because he's shown 2 seasons ago now, I guess 3, because we just finished the last one. He had 39 goals. He doesn't even have 39 goals total in the last 2 seasons. And he admitted in his end of season press conference that something he's going to work on this summer is having more of a shooter's mentality. And I think that in particular is going to be a huge offensive booster for the Senators if he can come back and show that he can be a 35 to 40 goal scorer in the NHL. You're looking at Dylan Cousins coming in, and I think the off-ice play or off-puck play probably could have been a bit better, especially a couple moments in the playoffs that stand out. But he also had some great moments. He had the game winner against Detroit in the game they got outshot, 50 to 20 in the third period. Great one-timer there. Had the big shorty against the Leafs to go up 2-0 in game 5. I just think a training camp of Dylan Cousins playing every single day in a structure that fits what he's going to be doing night in, night out could be really beneficial for him. Like, let's not forget, boys, the Sens may have had the most not consequential, that's the wrong word because Florida obviously did, but the most forward-thinking trade deadline. Like, they're expecting 2 guys to be top 6, maybe top 9, if one of Fabian Zetterlund, more likely, obviously, is a guy who's maybe more of a versatile plug-and-play in your lineup kind of guy. But, like, there's a real thought that the Sens could go into next year with 2 guys in their top 6 that they got at the deadline. Like, that's a huge roster move up front for a team that was really close to the bottom of the league in 5-on-5 scoring. And we know that Zetterlund struggled to put the puck in the net in Ottawa, even though the chances were there, the effort was there. You could tell he was buzzing around. So I think when you're looking at how Ottawa's shaped up, I think internal growth is the number one way that they can get into a playoff competitive window. And we'll see if they can do it, man. It's going to be on the players. And I almost feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, don't you think if they go out and make a splashy trade, it kind of takes a bit of the onus away from the guys who it should be on, the Timmies, the Drakes, to be that much better?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, but also to an extent, if you can make a move that you feel makes your team better now and in the future, I think you have to take a serious look at that. I mean, you never almost ever see a team coming back fully intact from the year before. So, I mean, bringing new guys in is just a natural part of the process. Do you do it specifically to try to alleviate pressure on your own guys? Maybe not. I agree with you in that sense. Stützle, Tkachuk, Sanderson, I think those are really the three guys that you're banking on long term to be the top three pieces of a cup winning team, hopefully in the future. So I agree with you there. I mean, they all got to look at themselves. They're all still in their mid-20s or younger, and still growing into being full-grown men, right? They still have physical development to do at that age a little bit in terms of filling out. And honestly, I think losing in the playoffs serves them well in the long run. I think with Brady, obviously he's showing this, and I think this obviously rubs down on the rest of the group, but he hates to lose, and you have to hate to lose. And I think that's the biggest thing. They've been into the playoffs now. They felt obviously the wrong end of the result there against probably their biggest rivals. That obviously didn't feel good. So it's how much do you let that resonate with you? How much do you use that as motivation? And how much you say there's no fucking way Toronto's beating us ever again in the playoffs?
Yeah, and I think one thing, just to pick up on that, sorry, Rocco, but one thing to pick up, how many firsts did they get out of the way? Their first game, their first blowout loss, their first overtime game, their first home game, then their first win, then their first shutout, and then their first series loss. Like every game, it was a completely new learning experience.
No, exactly. And it's a necessary pain to go through, I think. You look at any good team that has won, and they've gone through some tough losses. Sidney Crosby lost in the finals before he won. Tampa Bay lost before they won. So it is part of it. And I agree that, hopefully the internal growth is enough. That said, like if you can go out and make your team better, it's with the cap increasing the way it's going to the next couple of years. If you have an owner that doesn't mind spending, and it looks like we do have that, if you can go out and take advantage of someone else's situation, I think you do that. Now, does that mean we go out and dismantle the core? Do you get mad at Batherson and Cousins because they had a couple of bad shifts at bad times in the playoffs there? No, you hope they learn from it. But guys like Jason Robertson, for example, don't come around every day. So if you can take advantage of a team that's in a more cap strap spot than you, you do it. But it would have to be, for me, an obvious win where everyone in the room says, okay, it sucks that we lost that guy, but yeah, okay, we'll take that deal. So that's what I'd be looking for. But I agree. I don't think they're going to go out searching for that final piece of the puzzle. I think they're going to let this thing simmer another year, see how they do with the internal growth. Realistically, they're probably not going to win the cup next year. And you save that move for when the championship windows truly open, which hopefully would be the year after this one.
So if I could say one thing about Batherson, I mean, I don't want to trade him, but he's the most tradable asset if we were going to make some sort of deal. Like his contract is the most tradable guy. Like it's kind of the obvious guy. But do you feel if they were to make a deal that way that it would fit, it would have to be that specific style of play like a Cousins or a Zetterlund? Like it's like I'm not sure Jason Robertson really fits that. Like, we think it's going to be more of a guy who loads up on the hits, like one of those harder guys to play against? Because that was the big difference between Cousins and Norris, is that not so much the analytics, but if you look at the way they play, like Cousins finishes his checks, like he's harder to play against eye test wise. So Zetterlund. And I mean,
which is interesting too, because like if you look at the hits leaders, like Drake Batherson really stepped up that part of his game. But I'm with you, like when you're watching every single night, you're like, did he really have 5-6 hits?
Yeah, I think Batherson did a lot better this year in terms of the details of his game. He was a much more engaged player off the puck than he has been in previous years. That said, there were still times where that lapsed. But I think that's just always going to you're going to have to take that sometimes. But that's why you're getting him for 65 points at $5 million.
I'm not implying that I want to trade him, by the way. It's just like you're going to have to resign him soon. That's
but his value right now with 2 years left on his deal, in the prime of his career, at a very reasonable cap hit for relative to his production. If there were to be a move, that's the highest valued asset, I think, where you might be able to go out and get a player that is maybe a little bit better than him, that costs a little bit more, and a team's okay taking him back. It's like, okay, well, you know what? This is still a first or second line player. We can use this for 2 years, much in the same way that Colorado took Nietzsche's back as the main piece of that Rantanen deal, because like, okay, might not be Mikko Rantanen, but he's pretty damn good anyways, and he fits in money wise. So I agree with you, boys. I'm not looking to trade Batherson. I'm personally a big fan of everyone loves the Drake. So I wouldn't be looking to move Batherson, but or really necessarily go out of my way to make big splashes. But you're looking for a signing or two. I think the Giroux situation comes into play a lot here. If they can get him re-signed, that's a spot. That's a spot in your top 9 you don't have to worry about for another probably 2 seasons. But if they can't work the money out there, all of a sudden you've got a 55-point sized hole in your lineup. Not to mention what he brings to the face-off circle and in the locker room.
Yeah, I think Giroux to me is still number 1 priority. I know some people say, hey, you got too many middle 6 wingers. I think that you need Claude Giroux back for what he brings off the ice as much as on it. And then we'll see. It'll be interesting too, because if Giroux comes back, all of a sudden now it's okay. Well, Michael Amadio, you loved him with Pinto and Greg last year if you're the coaching staff, but now all of a sudden you're in a bit of a squeeze, because unless you're putting Zetterlund, who I don't think you are, making over $4 million on the 4th line again, now you're looking at probably having David Perron on the 4th line, and that's without adding anybody up front. So I think they're a really curious team to see how they're going to approach this, because I mean, you're going to have to get rid of one, and that's where the conversation then turns to which asset is most valuable if you are trying to upgrade in that position. But when it comes to the style of player, I know, Darren, you mentioned there that maybe it's like a gritty, more of a checker, that sort of thing. To me, that's what you'd be targeting for the 4th line center. I think good on Adam Gaudette, got his NHL career back on track. I think he's going to cash in, and rightfully so. I think he's going to be too expensive for what Ottawa is willing to pay. And I think that's where you can really target a style of player that you're going to get with the hard nose and all of that. And how much is he really going to play when you've got a 3rd line center like Pinto, who often nights is top 2 on your forward core in ice time. So the Sens really have they're a 3-line team that can sprinkle in a 4th line for different roles. So I mean, this is really going to be fascinating to see up front, because on the back end, I think they're just about set. Maybe you looked at a right shot defenseman who can play now. I know we talked about adding it for the system later, but that would be another area I'd be looking at, saying, hey, I know Nick Jensen, he played through a lot of pain. He was great in the first half of the season too when he was healthy, but there's 2 sides of it. One, are you comfortable paying him $4 million in cap to be on your 3rd pair if you do add a 2nd pair right shot defenseman? Or then there's the other side, is he going to be ready for opening night? And are you comfortable having Martin Palo as kind of an everyday guy? And then is Yak going to make the team out of camp even for 9 games, even though the contract's in now? But let's say to play while Jensen's out. A lot of questions, man. A lot of questions.
So that was kind of a follow-up I was going to have there. Like, if they do end up signing Giroux, and we'll say it's probably under market value with lots of bonuses, I guess, for the next season, is there a right shot defenseman that, we could sign? Is that what you think we should be signing or utilizing that money for? Or would you utilize it more on, forward depth, do you think?
I probably look on the back end more so. Just the uncertainty around Jensen. And I don't want him in a situation where he's playing through the level of injury that he was in the regular season. Playoffs, everyone's going to battle through it. I get that, even though maybe it did affect his play to an extent. But like game 76, when you're like a 90% chance of making the playoffs, like I don't need this guy to be battling through it. And if you have the proper depth, maybe he doesn't have to. So to me, that would be the area where I'm looking for. Now, there's a name that I've heard from the streets, we'll call it, just a few DMs here and there. And it's one that it was like, the meme of the girl drinking the kombucha for the first time, where she's like, and then actually like, maybe, is a restricted free agent out of Colorado, Sam Malinsky, undersized guy, bit of a puck mover. And then I was thinking, I was like, frig, he's got a bit of Chris Weidman to him. Like, to me, it's not going to be a flashy signing is what I'm getting at here, especially if it's that name. But you're also looking for a puck mover, I would say, right? Because Clevin Matinpalo, and Matinpalo showed a couple flashes for sure. I think he got his only NHL goal friggin' 2 feet in front of the net. But I think you're probably wanting a bit more of a puck moving option on the back end that maybe you can shuffle in and out of the lineup, depending on who the opponent is, depending who's clicking. I think that's kind of, basically I'm saying pump the brakes if you're looking at Aaron Ekblad, pump the brakes if you're looking at getting a overpaid or top 4 guaranteed defenseman. I think they're going to try to be smart and with the new pro scouting staff saying, hey, who can we target? A guy who maybe is a 6-7 right now, but we like the upside and think that they can grow with the group throughout the season. And Colorado, they're in a situation, obviously Makar's different, but Makar's still not the biggest guy. Then you've got Girard on there too. Like Malinsky could just be the odd man out, one, based on cap and being an RFA, but two, like you can't really have 3 defensemen under 6'2", I think, to build the competitive team that Colorado's trying to build, especially when they got run out of the building a lot of nights in that playoff series against the Dallas Stars.
No, Sounds like Ross agrees with us, eh? Can't have a bunch of small D.
No, but you can have one. But you can have 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. And when we put our draft rankings out, you're going to see a pretty good reflection of a bunch of massive defensemen who are way higher on our list than anybody else's, and rightfully so.
But with Malinsky too, like this guy's sneaky skill. Like I was watching the other day his college reel. He was the captain at Cornell, and he's silky. He's silky, and he put up 27 points in 46 games in the AHL. Not this past season where he's fully in the NHL, but the year before. I like the player, so just keep that name in mind as a guy. I put Niels Lundqvist in there as well last week. Obviously, he re-signed with Dallas, but those are the types of players I think they're going to target on the back end. And then, like we said, like, hey, you need more in your system on the right side. You bring back Lassie for the same reasons. It's almost like you're trying to get the missed draft opportunities from 2-3 years ago, and now saying, hey, who's in that age range, that 21 to 24, that's like already far enough along that maybe they're NHLers right now, but still have upside on top of it.
Yeah, I like that train of thought, right? Because that fits in with the curve of the team very well, and it becomes much more than just a stopgap option, which I think you're trying to avoid ideally. Like you said, they do have a lot of stock in Yakimchuk and how he pans out. That said, if he is able to hit his ceiling, his package of tools is just like you could be looking at Brent Burns if everything clicks together, and you'll love that. So if that's going to be the focal point of your right side, and obviously you said it earlier, like these guys are not getting any younger. Jensen especially, you'd love to see him be able to take on a little more less tough minutes. I think he's going to be 34 this year. I think
35.
35. So there you go. So he's not getting any younger. Those minutes on defense add up after a while, and obviously with the injury problem they face at the end of the year, I would love personally to see them go and bring in someone, like you said, someone that's going to be able to stay with the team and grow with them, and maybe has some potential there. If there were a free agent signing, I don't know, Ekblad, I don't think we have a shot in hell of getting him, even if we wanted him. Fabro could be an option, but again, he might be the top guy.
Herbix is an option too.
Yeah, there's another name.
But like I said, these guys very well may get paid a little more than they're worth, because there's so few guys out there as UFAs that you could pencil into your lineup on a everyday basis. So obviously they're gonna have to get a little bit creative, and going after a guy with an offer sheet, I think is a great opportunity, especially if the team's in a cap crunch now. You have to have your own draft picks to match the compensation, so that's kind of tricky with the way our previous management bungled that asset pretty regularly. But if it's an option for them and they can get a guy signed in a range where they can pay the compensation, I think that's great. But this whole thing of not going after teams RFAs, I think that's over, and I think teams are just, hey, you know what, there's an opportunity to go get better. If Buddy in the next GM's office is pissed off at me, well, maybe this signing, he's not going to be there next year anyway, so who really cares? I think you got to look at ways to make your team better, no matter who it bothers. And I liked Matt and Paolo. I did. I thought he got better and better as the season wore on. Bigger guys take a long time, and you just need a chance to get comfy. And I think once he got comfy, he looked really quite good. I like him and Clevin as a shutdown pair moving forward, but we have a lot of stock in Jensen right now, who is a big question mark with the injury. And again, he is not getting any younger. So how many more years does he have left in the tank? And is he still an effective NHL player by the time Ottawa's ready to win a Stanley Cup. So that's the biggest hole there. Zetterlund, I think you're looking for the Zetterlund of defensemen, really, where they got him. He's a pending RFA, scored 20, everyday NHL player, already established. But again, there is more upside there, and he fits the age of the team. So if you can get
Thank God Pillsy's not here. Pillsy would throw Eric Brandstrom's name out right now.
Well, we don't need to go down that road again.
To bring him in?
He's kind of built like Fabian Zetterlund. So when he said we need the Fabian Zetterlund of defense, I was like, hey.
Well, not in terms of the size. I just mean in terms of a guy who's young and available out there that you can keep and make him part of the thing moving forward. Eric Branson would probably be the last name on this planet that I would want to bring back in.
I did see something funny, though. He was training with Gabriel Eliasson last week. I guess they live nearby or whatever. Like, if you took both of their best assets together, in other words, if you gave Brandstrom a 6'7" height, he might be the best defenseman in the league.
He probably would be.
If you could have a 6'7" defenseman that could wheel around like that, that'd be pretty special, I think.
So, one note on Nick Jensen, just because I think it's an anomaly and I think it's kind of funny, and I'm not trying to dog the guy. It's almost impressive. He's played 33 playoff games and has 0 points. That's almost impressive.
I mean, he is a defenseman. I'll give him a break.
6 different years in the playoffs. 0 points, -10 in 33 games.
I mean, I think that speaks maybe more to the type of minutes he's eaten in playoff situations than anything. But it's not. I would say it's obviously less than ideal to have. What was it? 0, 0, 0, 0.
Yeah, Mitchell quote. Good quote.
Yeah. So you don't need the Sam Mitchell stat line there, but again,
Zub has an assist in 6 playoff games.
Russian machine never breaks, so that's different.
Allmark might have an assist in 6 games. So
I think Allmark has an assist for sure.
Well, he might have had an assist last year.
No, he's got 1 playoff assist though.
There
3
you go.
seasons ago, 1 assist, 10 PIMs that year. Hell yeah.
So you definitely don't want your goaltender outscoring your skaters across career playoff stats. That's obviously not ideal.
They're probably close in games played too. No, Allmark's at 15, so less than half of Jensen's 33.
Oh dear, okay. We got to get him. We got to find a secondary.
He's got to get one. Great dude, by the way. Awesome dude. Great family too. We had his wife on. She was doing a little charity. They're really passionate about what they're doing. So I think that they're great people, and I think obviously Jensen's going to be back, but I think it's important for him to be healthy, and to do that when you're talking about transactions, you got to give them the proper depth that if he's not 100%, that you can get him to that and not have him play injured 4.5 months of the year.
They need to go into the season with a decor that if you take Jensen out of the lineup for a little while, that's still a playoff caliber decor. And right now, I don't know, like if with him out for if it's just the guys that they have already, that's kind of, you're in a tricky spot where you can't afford to lose a second guy. So I think giving that depth and a little bit of a contingency plan there in case he's not back at 100%.
I think Rocco, like what they need is just competent NHL guys. Like I think they need to, I hate to say it, but they're going to have to kind of weasel into that veteran FA market that it's guys like on PTOs and camp. Like those are the guys they're going to have to target and maybe hit on one of them. Like that's kind of what they have to do. They don't need a guy to light the world on fire. They just need
you've got
a guy to play a solid 18 minutes of hockey and not be a liability. All they've needed all along.
Well, that's it. To go out there and not be a liability, retrieve the puck, move the puck, and get off the ice, right? I think that goes a long way. Now, last year, the expectations, like the hope for the fan base, what we would consider quote unquote a successful season, was obviously a playoff appearance. That was a goal coming into it. And as far as realistic goals, obviously you want to win the cup, but it's not going to happen every year. So that was the goal last year. The team hit that goal. What do you think the goal should be coming into this season?
Win a round.
One round, and we're going to call that. I would agree with that if you can make the second round. But that's the bar. Win at least one round.
You talked about taking a step, right? You did all those firsts that I mentioned last year. Well, winning a first round as a core would be the next step.
Do we think they can compete with Tampa Bay and Florida?
Those are 2 different questions.
Florida's probably a no. They can probably compete with Tampa, I think, but
Can they?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing with both of those teams is that, I mean, to a lesser extent, Tampa, but like at some point, like, correct me if I'm wrong, at some point, 37-year-old Sergei Bobrovsky has to break down, right? At some point.
He's Russian. Russian machine never breaks.
he's also a Hall of Fame goaltender, so sometimes it just doesn't happen. Plus, his body's probably in better shape because he's in Florida and not playing.
He
up north all the
he
time.
started more than 50 games in the regular season in 4 straight years, and he's been to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals. Like, that's a lot of hockey, dude.
Yeah, Bobrovsky. So Father Time's undefeated. He's 37, like you mentioned. He's obviously not going to last forever, but can you get another two? Like, look, Dwayne Rollison, how good was he into 39, 40, 41? Goalies can last a long time, and like as long as you stay limber and you're injury free. I mean, look, he still looked good this year. I think he's got another couple of years at least. But that's obviously the benchmark. But I like that Ottawa's trying to kind of build that type of greasy team because that still works. It still works in the playoffs. We see it every year. So, yeah, I like what they're doing in terms of at least the identity. They have an identity now, which is good.
Yeah, and that's also, it's like, how much do you want to alter that identity now that you've created it, right? That's one of the reasons why I think you got to keep Claude Giroux, and another reason where, as much as it'd be great for content and it would be exciting if they make a big splash, I also see a lot of benefits with just nibbling around the edges to try to make your team better, and also putting the onus on your core players, saying we expect more from you next year. I think that's going to be an important piece of the puzzle.
So, Ross, we've talked about their prospect pool. It's not the deepest, but do you have any expectations for some of these guys next year? Like, do you think that a Yakimchuk can maybe make the team? Is that something you're looking at? Do you think
Holiday?
Like, do you think that it's reasonable that he could play in the NHL? Even like a year, kind of Blake Montgomery. I think he's going to,
Yeah, he's been at Wisconsin next year.
Yeah, but I honestly could see Blake Montgomery even going to the AHL, to be honest, if they really wanted to put him there. Because we had him on the show in like February or March, it was during 4 Nations, so February, and he's fired up to go to school. I don't think you could talk him out of it, even if you wanted to. Because like I got to see him live here in London a lot, and he really impressed me as the year went on. Like, he fits a lot of the model that Sens team wants. He's big, he's physical, he's fast.
Yeah. Well, if you ask the Senator scout, hey, why do you keep taking these big, raw, athletic kids? He would be the poster boy, being like, this is what happens when they hit quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the NCAA is the right fit for him, though. I think like that is the next step. He's taken big steps. Like, he's a bit of a late bloomer, right? Passed over the first time in his draft, grew late, all that sort of stuff. So he's catching up rapidly. So he jumped from the USHL to the CHL, got comfortable quick there, was a huge part of London's championship team. The next step is college, right? And then there's another jump to the American League. I think we're looking at a year of college for him. Then you skip to the pros.
I'm just saying, Rocco, like, I think the way that he plays his game, like, he plays kind of a pro style game already. Like, I think he could fit into the AHL, like, okay. Like, I don't think it would actually, like, he's big. He's yes, he needs to, gain some strength, but I mean, he's already fairly strong. So I agree. It wouldn't be the worst.
I know. I agree. But the risk there, because he's so pro ready in terms of his size and speed and physicality and tenacity in the way he plays, you could pigeonhole him into a bottom 6 role by rushing him along too early. If he goes to college, he's going to get the puck a lot more on his stick. And I think that's what you're trying to develop, because I think because he's such a good athlete, the runway there is as much as you want it to be. So just because he is big and fast and strong, I don't think we need to rush him along to be a third line guy, when there's a potential for him to be even more than that by taking maybe a little bit more measured path and maybe a little bit longer path to get there. Because look, you want to play at the highest level of competition, but you also want him to be leaned on in offensive situations. Like you saw when he got more offensive opportunity in London, like he ran with them. So I think that's maybe what they're looking for in that sense. Colin White's a really good example of a guy who was ready to play in a lower role in the lineup when he was really young, and that kind of pigeonholed him into that. And he never really got the chance to develop the offensive game because he was already so good as a grinder. when he was young. So you wouldn't want that with Blake, because I think the upside there is really, really good. So for me, college is perfect 1 year for him. But
yeah, in terms of the rest of the prospect pool, though, boys, like even though it's thin, there are some intriguing guys. Like you guys mentioned, Stephen Halliday. I love the way that guy plays. I think he honestly, and people can clown on me if you want, but he's a poor man's Austin Matthews. Like how poor, that's to be decided. But the way he looks on the ice, he's big, he's lumbering, he's got a really elite wrist shot and pull and drag shoot. That type of shot. Like, I mean, even wears 34 right now in Belleville because one of the vets came in, Zach McEwen said, no, I'm wearing 17 now. So he's a guy that I think could play NHL. The only thing is, if he's going to be on the team, he's your fourth line center. And I think Ottawa is going to be looking for a PK skill hit type player. So I think he's probably the first call up next year. But I mean, he led the team down in Belleville in scoring last year, and he's going to be an NHL player. I'm pretty confident in saying that. There's not a whole lot of guys that I can tell you I'm confident are going to be guaranteed NHLers beyond that in the prospect pool. Guy I like, I also think he's just an awesome dude, so I might be a little more biased on him, is Oscar Pettersson. But again, that's a role type player at the NHL level. Sucks that Tyler Boucher, I mean, say what you want about where he was drafted, but he was, I feel like, Rocco, you feel this way about Simon Wang in this draft, where it's like, I love the guy, but don't take him too high. Otherwise, you might be asking for too much. I remember pre-draft on Locked On Sens, we were doing our rankings. We both had Tyler Boucher as a 5-star guy that we loved and we'd want the Sens to take. At 39 or 42, Ottawa had 2 picks at that time in the 2021 draft. One of them they ended up taking Zach Ostapchuk, so it worked out getting a guy who you were able to move for an NHL asset. But it's just like the injuries on top of that have just played such a role in his hindrance of development. I just don't see anyone else up front other than Halliday, and Blake's obviously a few years away, but has the potential where you're like, oh yeah, that guy's going to be an NHLer, which is why, going back to the first part of our conversation, I think you probably lean forward with that pick at 21.
Oh, a nice full circle moment there, actually, to bring that back to the start. You can tell these guys done this once or twice. But no, I agree. I think those are the two guys up front who are, if I were a betting man, put money on those guys being NHL players. And then Yakimchuk's obviously the guy. Eliason,
no.
He didn't have a great year, Rocco.
No, he didn't have a great year, but look, that was always going to be a project, and I think where they took him, there were other guys I probably liked a little bit better personally, but they picked him and they see something in him, and maybe he's a longer term. But look, at the end of the day, he's 6'7" and he's batshit crazy, like mean, has like snaps, and if you can harness that, it's a scary guy to play against. You look at what Bischel did for Dallas in that series, and it's every time you look around, he's putting someone through the boards. So look, he's a wild stallion in a lot of ways, and he needs a lot of work and refinement to rein in. But you can't teach a guy to kind of have that meanness to him. So if you can get him to a point where the puck game and the off puck play and obviously the discipline can be improved.
That's a lot.
Like, it is.
Anything else?
Well, no, it is, but there's not a lot of 6 foot guys who will eat sticks with their teeth, or sorry, 6'7" guys who will eat sticks with their teeth and smile about it, right? So,
oh yeah, he's nuts, and he's a beauty too. He sent me a DM a little while ago, just him eating a beaver tail. Because when we had him on, I was like, you gotta get some Canadiana in you. So he's like, I'm working on it. He's a beauty. He's a great guy. I hope he pans out. If he plays 100 games with the Senators, Pillsy's getting his jersey because he was really hard on him before the draft. But whenever we talk to scouts, it's like he doesn't even give himself an opportunity to play in the third period because he's done something dumb and the coach benches him.
Or he gets kicked out of the game.
Yeah, like he's got to clean it up for sure. But yeah, you'd rather rein it back, but can you? I mean, it's an extreme example.
Just in terms of like, forget the off-field stuff, but John Rocker.
Yeah. So Ross, if I can ask then, just you kind of answered this question for me, but do you think it's possible they have Halliday like penciled into like could he play 9, like just start the season with the team?
I would say no, but I would say it based on the fact that Sam Gagner gets hired as the player development. He's very clear he's going to be in Belleville working most of the time. And every time that I've seen, I think 3 different interviews now, he keeps talking about Stephen Halliday as like his pet project. So I think that means this year is going to, I think, let me tell you this, the start of the 2026 season, I think on their depth chart, they have him as the 4th line center.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to another area here that, maybe not now that we actually have a goalie under contract for a long time. So Ullmark is the starter, so that's great. Backup goalie here.
Yeah.
Marilainen's an RFA, and we have Sogard under contract. Do we still expect Marilainen to be the backup here?
No, I don't. I think that they're gonna. I honestly think unless I think Forsberg is gonna be a guy who goes to July 1st because he could get life-changing money because of how poor the UFA market is for goalies. But if he's willing to come back at less than he made last year with Ottawa, if he's comfortable here, he obviously has a great relationship with Linus Ullmark, going back to their first year pro together in Sweden on the same team. I mean, you can do worse. I know there were games that he cost you last year. There are also games he stole, like the one against Florida where he had 40 save shutout in the end of March and that back-to-back. He had he basically either got a shutout or he was unplayable last year. It was kind of interesting, but I think only him and Jake Allen are UFA goalies that had a 900 or better save percentage last year. Like there's not many more options out there. So is it devil you know, devil you don't? That's going to be the question. I get the Marilainen infatuation, but if Ullmark can stay healthy, and I guess that is the big if, do you want Marilainen sitting on the bench for 55 games next season? Or do you want him as a guy who doesn't need waivers, and then I'm kind of talking myself into my point even more of why they need to have a veteran backup. Even if Ullmark gets hurt, all of a sudden Marilainen can be the starter of the NHL. Like basically, I want Marilainen playing as many games as possible next season. And if he's the backup, he ain't going to be doing that. So like no, I'm not going to say Sogard as the backup. That he just can't. He can't do that. I went to 5 Sens games this year. Sogard started one of them in Winnipeg and came in relief in the other one against LA. And those are the only 2 NHL games he got last year. So I got as much live viewing on Mads Sogard as was available last season in the NHL. I love Mads as a guy. I think he's one of the best guys going. I really think that he has a great mind on his shoulders. He knows what he has to do to get better. But unfortunately, it was a big step back not being able to play this year. When he did play, frankly, it wasn't very good. So I think there's a long road ahead for Mads. If I'm the Sens, though, I'm not looking to move him. I think you just bite the bullet on that one-way contract. I guess waivers gets interesting. I don't think there's a team, because if they take him off waivers, they have to play him in the NHL. He's not an NHL goalie right now. And if a team plays him in the NHL, I think that's to their detriment, and he'll be right back on waivers, and then Ottawa would get first chance to put him in the AHL. So, but to answer your question, to me, the goaltending tandem in the AHL next year is Marilainen and Sogard, and I would be very happy with that.
I completely agree that getting Marilainen as many games as possible is that's the MO. I think you are looking at a guy that I think has the skills to be a starting goalie in this league. So and that comes with reps. And like you said, if Ullmark can't stay healthy, you have your starter right there who you can send up and down. Forsberg at a discount would be nice because when he gets hot, he can carry you for a little bit.
Fine as a backup.
In stretches. Yes, he is fine as a backup. I agree. Yeah. I want him at $3.5 million. No, I don't. It'd have to be 2 or 2.5, I think, to make that.
I'm even going a bit less, but I understand that that's unlikely based on the market and what that dictates and the cap going up. But like when it comes to Marilainen, like my pushback on people were like, no, he has to, like, he's going to push to be a one-way. And like, I get that his agent can bring that up, but like, boys, this guy played in the ECHL last year, like the year before this one. Like, it's not like he's got this track record. Like, it's disrespectful to have him expected to be the guy in Belleville. He'd be 23 years old. I think, again, like Halliday, you're looking at the following season saying that's when he's a full-time NHLer. And look, it's a great problem to have because Belleville needs to make the playoffs next year. That was a disappointing year for them. A lot of it was on their forwards not being able to score as much. But Marilainen being your starter in the AHL gives you a chance to really have a competitive team down there. And I think that's going to be of the utmost importance for Belleville to be good.
I didn't mind the structure of Sogard's deal, whereas the first year is a two-way and the second year is a one-way. I just think they gave it to the wrong guy. Whereas
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. They did the same with Joey DeCord, and look at him now. Like sometimes you make the right bets, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, so you give that to Marilyn, like you said, but I think one more year as a full-time starter would be fantastic for him. And then the second year you bring him up and he's the backup, and maybe they're splitting close to 50-50 that way. But I agree. Much like a defense where you just need someone to come in and be competent, I think that's what they're looking for to their backup as well.
Yeah, agreed. And like even a little less than competent. Like I think that you're more so at this point, you go back to having 10 and change in cap space, 10.7. And it's like, would we rather have maybe a little bit below average backup, but know that at any point we've got this guy without waivers requirement who can come up and play at the NHL level and then spend that money elsewhere? That might be a decision they have to make.
I think you make a good point there that also, too, if you just have the veteran backup, you can play Marilyn in the minors. If you really need him, you can just bring him up and he can play the games if Omar.
Right in.
Yeah, like it makes sense, but I just worry about how much we have to pay the backup because we don't have a ton of money, especially whatever Giroux. If we're going to sign Giroux, it's going to be, what do we think, 3 or 4 million? Plus incentives, something like that. So, I mean, we only have about, 6 million left after that? You got to sign multiple guys. So, like, that's kind of the issue there is you can't spend a whole lot on a backup goalie. So, it kind of does dictate the quality you're going to get of a guy. But you got a guy on the bench who can play 25 games for you. I think it works out. And you can play Marilyn and you can call Marilyn up to start kind of some other games if Allmark's tired or you're worried about him, being healthy or trying to sit him. You can give Marilyn the start.
Well, that's the beauty of bringing in a veteran guy, right? Because like you said, he's got that up-down privilege. Where if you want to bring him in to start a game, one game and send him back down, you can do that, especially Belleville's so close. Like you want to give him a look, give him a game here and there. And whoever signs as a backup, you just gonna have to know, hey, look, 5 to 10 of your starts are allotted for this kid that we have, and you're going to be okay playing 20 games. So maybe you can get a go like that for $1 million. Under $2 million, they maintain the flexibility that they need to ice a playoff team at least. So that's good. Boyce, you have anything else you want to touch on here?
I'm just gonna ask prediction for next year. What do you think the Sens are gonna do next year? Like, where are you predicting them to finish? Hometown bias.
Oh, you want the hometown bias? Then I'll go with the third spot in the Atlantic. But I think realistically, they should expect to be the top wildcard team again because a lot of other teams either had disappointing years. I'm looking at the New York Rangers or the Columbus Blue Jackets could be that much better, man. They got a ton of cap space, good young team getting better. So, like, it's not going to be easy to make the playoffs again. It's not like they're guaranteed like Florida or Tampa and Toronto, where it's like those three are still the beasts in the Atlantic. And I think to get into that conversation, you need more than one top wildcard finish. So I think my realistic or hopeful expectation is that they're the top wildcard team again.
Yeah, hey, no disagreements here. I mean, well, they're in the strongest division in hockey. They are, like, a period. Those three teams are all top 10 teams.
Montreal are getting better.
Yep.
Dude, Montreal could be serious, honestly. Like, I hate that I like what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Big time.
So awesome. Well, Ross, thanks for joining us. This has been great to get to chat. I mean, we cover the draft, obviously, but both of us being Sens fans, it's exciting to get to spend a full episode just focused on our team. So I know Boyce went on to do you guys mock draft, and that was awesome. So anyone watching ours that hasn't seen that, Boyce gives some analysis on who the Sens picked in that mock and then has a few picks of his own. Check out the Locked On Sens. Probably, again, like I said, the top Sens podcast out there. Thanks again for your time. This has been awesome, and we look forward to chatting with you after we see what the Sens do here with this 21st overall selection.
Yeah, big time. Rocco, Darren, really appreciate you guys for having me, and we'll do this again throughout the summer.
Look forward to it. That's great. Thanks,
All
Ross.
right, cheers, guys. Thank you.